and welcome to today's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where we've got a ludicrous looking puzzle for you today. Every single clue in this grid is a zero. So the sum of the cages is zero, the sum of the diagonals is zero. We should really do this on April Fool's Day, shouldn't we? Because it does seem a little ludicrous. It's not quite as strange as it seems, because there are sort of two types of cells in the puzzle. Cells either count for, is it the square? No, the double of their value, or they count for the negative of their value. So if that square is a 6, it's either worth 12 for the purposes of the cages and the diagonals, or it's worth -6. I think that's how it's worked. The puzzle's called Double Negative. It's by Arctan, and apparently it's really, really rather clever, and I'm looking forward to having a go at it. And I don't have too much news for you today, although I did. I'm on Facebook, and sometimes Facebook, it seems to know things I like, and it recommends poems to me, and I'm something of a poetry lover. And this morning it recommended to me a poem called Dust of Snow by Robert Frost, and I thought I might read it to you in case any of you aren't familiar with it. It's very short. So Dust of Snow, Robert Frost. The way a crow shook down on me the dust of snow from a hemlock tree has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I had rued. I just think it's really lovely. Apparently it was written in the aftermath of the sort of Spanish flu in about 1920-something, when people were rediscovering how important being around nature was for their mental health. And I think the same could be said nowadays. Often, obviously, if you're watching this video, you're probably watching it indoors. And I seem to spend so much of my time indoors. Maverick has just flown past. But, I do get out, it's particularly to play golf, and there is something deeply cathartic about being in the fresh air. So anyway, that was just a little segue. I hope you don't mind. Any other news? Not really. We have obviously got our puzzle club over on Patreon. It's a couple of bucks a month to join us there. Lots of extra content, so check it out if you do enjoy the stuff that we produce. And with that said and done, why don't I read you the rules to Double Negative, and let's see what Arctan has in store for us. The rules are as follows. Normal Sudoku rules apply. Now, okay, let's think about that for a moment. This is a 6x6 grid, so I presume that means that the digits 1 to 6 are in play here. If that, I'm going to assume that, and if that turns out to be correct, I am going to change the rules before you see the puzzle, because not everybody might know what normal Sudoku rules mean in the context of a 6x6 puzzle. Yes, I mean, it does seem likely, doesn't it? There are 2x3 boxes as well. So digits in cages cannot repeat and must sum to 0. It literally says must sum to 0. Digits on the indicated diagonals also sum to 0, but may repeat if allowed by other rules. Divide the grid into two orthogonally connected regions such that no 2x2 area is entirely one region or the other. In one region, every digit counts as twice its value for the purposes of cages and diagonals, and in the other region, every digit counts as the negative of its value for the purposes of cages and diagonals. And then it has an example. It says, for example, a 2-cell cage which adds to 0. We haven't got any 2-cell cages. I've only got 4-cell cages. Well, okay, but that's a 2-cell amount of cells that add to 0 according to the diagonal. So could I use that to demonstrate the example? Okay, so these 2 cells, they add to 0. They could be fulfilled by a double 1. Let's put 1 in there. So if that's doubled, it counts as 2. Yes, and a negated 2. So these would have to be different colours. What colours should we have? If this was green and this was blue, these would be different colours. And if the blue colour meant negative and the green colour meant doubler, then this would be worth 2 and that would be worth -2, and 2 plus -2 is 0. Good grief. I mean, this is absolutely bonkers. Do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. But now I get to play. Let's get cracking. I mean, I elided over a part of the instructions there, which were yin-yang, weren't they? So we have to divide the grid. I mean, maybe I should have done that in the instructions. I'm not going to be able to do my normal shape here. But a yin-yang shading would be something of that nature, because you can see all the green cells are orthogonally, sort of form an orthogonally connected unit. All the blue cells form an orthogonally connected unit. Orthogonally connected means connected across an edge. And no 2x2 is entirely one colour. So we're going to have to divide the grid like that, such that all these sums are correct. I mean, why don't we start with some of the rules of yin-yang then? So what we can't do in working through our eventual shading is to have a checkerboard anywhere in the grid. And that's because we have to make sure that the blue squares and the green squares are orthogonally connected. Let's put the checkerboard in the middle actually, so it might be clearer. Now, to orthogonally connect the blue squares, again, we don't know how that would happen if we had the checkerboard, but let's say it went like that. Hopefully you can see that this green cell here is now in a pond of blue, and it can't orthogonally connect to this green. And it wouldn't matter if we connected the blues the other way round. All that will do is isolate a different green cell. So either way round, that doesn't work. Oh, my radiators make the most astonishing noises. So we can't have a checkerboard. The perimeter, therefore, can have a maximum of 1 change of colour. So the perimeter could be entirely one colour, and we could introduce the other colour into the perimeter, but we can only introduce that other colour once. Because if we were to try and introduce it again now, and have 2 sort of strings of blue in the perimeter, then the requirement that we connect the blue orthogonally, again, it doesn't matter how we do it. The problem is we will create a wall going from one side of the grid to the other, and we can't now connect these greens up. So we can have 1 change of colour in the perimeter, and I mean, it could be a considerable change of colour. We could have this sort of thing, sort of half and half. But what we can't do is ever introduce, either colour again into the perimeter. So that's another thing we're going to have to think about. Because all of these cages, in order to add to 0, they're going to have a negative element and a doubler element, aren't they? Because also we can't have a 2x2 that's entirely one colour. So mathematically and yin-yangily, we're going to have different colours in each 2x2. And these have to be different. Yeah, okay, so maybe that's how we start. But these have to be different because, actually, I'll use our most colourblind friendly colours in our palette. So I'll use orange and blue. Now, because these have to be different in order to sum to 0, so one of them must have a negative quality and one of them must have a doubler quality, there is definitely a change in colour in the perimeter in those 3 squares, isn't there? We don't know what this corner digit is. It's orange or blue, but there's, whichever it is, in that 3-cell sequence, there is a change of colour. So there can only be, in the rest of this perimeter, 1 more change of colour at most. So at least, so if you don't have a change of colour when you go round a corner, those 3 digits would all have to be, or have the same property, wouldn't they? And that property would have to be, I want to say it would have to be negative. If these were all, no, they can't all be doublers, because the minimum they could be would be 1, 2, and 3, and one that they add up to 6. Yeah, that doesn't work, because they would then, if they're all the same colour, they all have the same property, and that property is doubling, they would be worth 12, and we can't make this worth 12, because this would be a negative digit, because if those three are all the same, this would have to be the other to avoid a 2 by 2. So if hang on, let me think about this. So I'm going to have, because I could have a change of colour in that sequence there, but then I couldn't have any more changes of colour. So these corners would have 3 of the same. So I think a lot of this perimeter is negative. But how much of it? And if you have a negative sequence, so if these 3 were negative, they would have to. I was going to say they'd have to be 1, 2, 3, and 6, but that ignores that. Oh, hang on, what's going on? I'm very confused now. So if those were all negative and they were 1, 2, and 3, what would that be? It couldn't be anything, because these would be negative 6. And this would be a doubler, which would imply it's meant to be a double 3, and it couldn't be, in order to offset negative 6. So this is more than negative 3. So it's either negative 4, 5, or 6. Now, if you have negative 4... not negative 4. If you have 4, doubled 4, I mean to say doubled 4, double 5, double 6. If you had doubled 4, that would be worth 8. That's interesting. If you have double 4, you know what these digits are, because they have to sum to 8, negative 8, and they can't use 4, so they would be 1, 2, and 5. Let's do this. So that's what happens if you get a 4 there. If you get a 5 there, what do you get if you get a run of 3 in the perimeter? Then you get 10, don't you? This is worth 10, so these have to be worth negative 10. So they'd have to include, they'd have to be 1, 3, 6. They'd have to include 6 in order to get high enough. And once they include 6, they need the other 2 digits have to add up to 4, and they'd have to be a 1, 3 pair. Now double 6 might be impossible. If you had double 6, 12. No, you can do that as well. So if you had double 6, this would be 3, 4, 5, negative. So that's very distressing, actually. Because what that means is there doesn't have to be a break in the perimeter. I thought maybe what would happen is let's imagine this was the only way that you could have a run of 3 in the perimeter round a corner. Well then, this could not have been a run of 3, because this would then have been 1, 2, 5 with a 4 here as well, and the 4s would have clashed. So this would have been able to be a run of 3 round the perimeter. That would have, that wouldn't have worked at all, because then there would have been something. There'd have been 2 changes of colour in the wrong position. We'd have had 2 examples of doubling in the perimeter. So actually, perhaps it's not surprising there's loads of different ways of doing this. No, that's not even true. 5, you get a 5 in all of them, but the 5 doesn't have to be negative in all of them. It can be doubled. So what does that mean? So if you have a 0, no, oh, this is so complicated. Sorry, I'm not doing this justice, am I? Or maybe it's one of these other diagonals. No, well, I mean it might be, but I don't see how on earth I can say anything about those 3 squares until I know what colour at least one of them is. No. Okay, am I going to delete all this? I'm not going to delete this, but I don't think this is how to get into the puzzle. I think all I've actually proved, sorry, it's taken me 15 minutes to do it as well, is that it's very possible to have runs of 3 around the perimeter. That they are going to be blue to the extent that they exist, but there's very little restriction on them. So maybe it's this. Is there something more I should have detected from this? These are different, that's true. But oh, I see. Yeah, okay. So if those 2 digits add up to 0, and they do, but that box adds up to 0 overall, then these 2 are also different colours, aren't they? So, right. Here I've actually got a deduction. Yes, if you think about these are like black Kropki dots, is what I'm going to say. What do I mean by that? Well, because one of these digits is double the negative value of the other digit, they're in the ratio of 1 to 2, obviously. Now, the ratio of these is 1 to 2, which means 1 is double the other. And the ratio of these is 1 to 2, so 1 is double the other. But there's no shared digit there. So if we think about black Kropki dots, what digits have we got in this Sudoku, which is a 1 to 6 Sudoku, where one digit could be double the other? Well, we've got 1 and 2, we've got 2 and 4, and we've got 3 and 6. Well, what we can't do is use the 2, which is part of 2 pairs. We can't use that on both diagonals, because if I put it there, then this could be 1 or 4, but this diagonal would always be 3, 6. So one of the diagonals in here is 3, 6, and there is a 2 in the other cell, which is going with a 1 or a 4. Now I've got to ignore this. This is total and utter gibberish. This is just my aide-memoire. So one diagonal here is 3, 6. And the other digit is... So this combination is... It's 6, 2, 3, and either a 1 or a 4. I'm actually going to put that in. Those are the possible digits that go in there. No 5. Yeah, that's fine. So, because we know... Well, no, we don't know. So, okay, so there are 2 5s in these, well, each of these rows, that row there and that row there contains a 5. So there are 2 5s to be distributed amongst these 3 boxes where we can't repeat a digit in a box. Now there's no 5 in that box, so there is a 5 in that box and there is a 5 in this box. And that's a true pencil mark. But, as we saw here, we don't know the nature of the 5, and we don't know how the digits are distributed, in the sense that these combinations only work if you have 3 negatives, if you have how many doubling digits can you have in one of these boxes? If you have, we worked out earlier you couldn't have 3 when I was trying to put 3 around the edge. So you've either got 1 or 2. If you've got 2 doublers in a box, so if this box was something like this, blue there, if it was of that nature, then we'd have 2 digits being doubled and 2 digits being negative. And that's probably fine, because you've got, if the 2 digits being doubled were very small, so say they were 1 and 2, they add up to 3, that gives us 6 for the, so 1 and 2 are doubled. So I need, okay, that doesn't work. You have to increase the doublers slightly more than that. Okay, let's think about 5 instead, because that might be easier to think about. So if the 5 is doubled, that's worth 10. Okay, so if there are 2 doublers in a box that adds to 0, you can't double the 5. Because if you double the 5, you then have to make a decision about what the other number is that you double. So what's this? I'm assuming orange is my doubler number, obviously. So if this was 1, these add up to 6, double it, 12. These have to add up to 12 without using, well, they'd have to be double 6. That's clearly not going to work. And any bigger number than 1 here is just going to break us by even more. So if we were in this world, the 5 is up here and is negative. And these two, this is, so there's parity. Yeah, these 2 digits, whatever they are, because they're doubled, this, the value we need to get to here is going to be an even total. Because these, whatever these digits are, that gets doubled, so that's going to be an even number. So this has to be, the 5 has to be combined, either with a 3 or a 1. So it's 5, 3, they add up to 8. Half of 8 is 4. These would be, that doesn't work. Nothing works then. Right. So, yeah, so what I'm now noticing is if you put 5 in here, well, yeah, let's be very precise here. This is interesting because what we've now worked out is that 5, there is a 5 in this box. It can't be. Well, okay. Well, yeah, we're building up a pattern here, but it's complicated. Anyway, let me complete this. So if we go 3, 5 into the negatives, adding up to 8, these digits doubled adds up to 8. So these sum to 4, and they would be 1 and 3, and you'd get 2 3s in the box. Now, if on the other hand you make this 5 and 1. We could see this was the problem before with a 1-2 pair, because these add up to 6, so these add up to 3, doubled to get to 6, so these have to be a 1-2 pair, and the 1 gets repeated. So what we've now learned is that it is actually impossible to construct any if there's a 5 in here, and it is one of these patterns. What I mean by one of these patterns is the shading in that box is 1 doubler, 3 negatives, because nothing else works. We can't have 2 doublers and 2 negatives. We've just shown we can't. There's no way numbers work, and you obviously can't have 3 doublers because that's going to break the world. So you must have 1 doubler. So it's one of so the patterns. Well, no, I've got to be very careful here though, because now I'm trying to extrapolate using these boxes, and that's not valid because I don't know where 5s live in this grid except in these boxes. Right, so what we're going to have to do is try and suck the knowledge out of these boxes. So, okay, I've tried to remember that. Delete it all, and delete this, and delete this. Go there, and now think. Because I know... Ah, I've got something. There you go, I've got something straight away. I've got two things straight away. Right, because we've just worked out that the pattern in here is 3 negatives, 1 positive. And the pattern in here is 3 negatives, 1 positive. How could... What positive doubler? How could you put the doubler in the corner? Let's say doubler is my orange colour. Well, this can never connect now to whichever one of these is a doubler. So that cannot be true. And that means the corner square is negative, definitely. So I'll make that my blue colour. So I need to get rid of... I don't know, how am I going to... I'll use different colours. Okay, so these colours are unspecified. These are different, but I don't know what they're going to end up as. But this must be a blue, i.e. a negative number. And now the orange is going to be here, here, or here. And if it was here, I don't see how it can be here. I don't see. I'm going to come back to that, but I'm going to try and do this in the sequence my brain thought of things. My brain looked at this thingy down here, because in this column, this pattern is forcing 5s out of this 2x2. So again, I can only put 1 5 in there, can't I? And there must be a 5 in here. But the fact there's a 5 in this 2x2 means that the pattern of shading we're going to end up with here is the same as this. Well, it might not be exactly the same as that, but it's going to be of the nature 3 negatives, 1 doubler. And we can't put the doubler in the corner because it'll be surrounded again. So that is blue. And that, okay, right. And that's shortcut my concerns about this digit. I can do much better now. Because I know that one of these is orange. So how could that be orange? It can't be, because that's going to be 2 changes of colour in the perimeter. In connecting this orange to whichever of these is orange, I will cut this blue off from that blue. But that principle applies to that entire stretch, doesn't it? Around the sort of south and east of the grid. So all of these squares are blue, which means that square is orange, and that's our first orange definitely known digit, I think. Although, no, I'm not sure actually. So that's 4, 5 or 6. Right. But that... Yeah, so that has 5 in it. Because the corollary of what we worked out before... We worked out if you had this pattern, 1 doubler, 3 negatives, it had to have a 5 in. So there is a 5 in here, but we don't know whether it's there. But now there's no 5 in these squares, because we've had the 2 5s in columns 5 and 6. There's no there's no 5 in that region, and that... So that can't have... Yeah, this is really interesting. So look at this one. Now, there is no 5 in here. Actually, I'm not even sure what I'm about to say is correct. No, I think it is correct. It is correct. Yeah. at the moment, the composition of this 2x2 is 2 blues, 2 negatives, and then something else. Now, what can these other things be? They definitely can't be 2 blues, can they? If they're 1 blue and 1 orange, then aren't we just back in this world again? Where we worked out right at the start when we looked at these 4 boxes that if you did have 3 negatives and a doubler in a box, then whatever combination you came up with, it involved a 5. And we know this box doesn't have a 5 in it. So it's not possible for these to be different colours. They have to be the same colour and they both have to be orange. But this box has to have a 5 in it now, by the sort of logic of columns 3 and 4. So this box is 3 blue, 1 orange. This box is 3 blue, 1 orange. If that was orange, the world is broken again. Because if that's orange, these are all blue, and one of these is orange, and there's 2 changes of colour in the perimeter again. So that doesn't work. So that's blue. And now that can't be orange for exactly the same reason. So that's blue. So this is so brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant. So now this is orange and is 4, 5 or 6 by the logic we ended up with at the start. We're going to end up, aren't we? We're going to end up with this pattern here. I wonder if all those 3 have to be different. Right, let me think about this then. So there is an orange in one of these. This orange has to connect to one of these. Right. One of those squares at least is blue. One of these squares at least is blue. One of these squares at least is blue, because I know that there's only 1 orange in each of these 2x2s. So it doesn't matter how I speckle those around. Even if I don't create actual walls like that, there is a virtual wall preventing this from extracting itself across the grid to touch one of these via any join across those boxes. It's impossible for this to join up across that region of the grid, because one of these is blue, one of these is blue, and one of these is blue. So the way this gets out is going to be via this. Now, I wonder whether that means those 2 have to be orange. I think it does, but I'm not certain. If the way it got out is by not taking this square, then it can't get out, can it? It's very clear, actually. It would have to take those 2, because remember, the moment you put 1 orange into one of these boxes, everything else becomes blue. And you can see that all of those are going to become blue, and that's going to be an isolated triomino. So this is definitely orange. I think the logic is going to apply for that one as well. If we make that blue, how does this get out? It's going to have to come here, and that's the last blue it can take in that region, and it can't get out. So that is definitely orange, which means this is definitely blue. By 2x2 logic. Now, what about the 0 diagonal then? Can we do that? I can do something with that. That can't be 6, because that's doubled on the diagonal, and that would be worth 12, wouldn't it? And that would require double 6 into those squares, but if that's 6, that can't be 6, because it's in that box already. So that's not 6, it's 4 or 5. If it's 5, it's worth 10. These have to add up to 10, but we can't put double 5 in because this is 5 already. So this would be a 4-6 pair. I don't know whether that's okay or not. Okay, what about if this is 4? If this is 4, it's worth 8. These two squares have got to add up to 8. And they can't be double 4. They'd have to be either 6 and 2 or 3 and 5. If it's 3 and 5, it would have to be 5 here and 3 here, because there's no 5s in that region by Sudoku. And if it's 6 and 2, you could probably do that in a variety of ways. Bobbins. Okay, so that's not where we're meant to look. And then we've got another diagonal here that's even longer. Okay, so I don't know how that works either. Oh dear. Sorry then. Okay, so maybe I've got to think harder about this one. Because this one has no 5 in it. We know that by Sudoku. The 2 5s in rows 5 and 6 are in these cages. But it has 2 doublers in it. And 2 negatives in it. So the maximum size of these negatives would be 6 and 4, because they can't include 5. 6 and 4 add up to 10. So the maximum size of the double digits is digits that add up to 5. So these have to be from 1, 2, 3 and 4. Right, and if this was 4, if there was a 4 in one of these, then the other digit would be a 1, because they can't add up to more than 5. So this would be a 4-1 pair adding up to 10. And how would you make those two add up to 10? If you can't use 4 and you can't use 5, you can't do it. So that means there is no 4 in here. Now, does there have to be a 3? If this was 1, 2, 6... I'm sure that's something we looked at up here and it didn't work. Hang on. If that's 1, 2, no, that doesn't work. You can't do that, because that adds, well, 1, 2 is 3 times by 2 is 6. You can't make these add up to 6 if you can't use a 1 and a 2 in the sum. So there is definitely a 3 in one of these squares. So it's not possible that both of these now contain 3. So if this is 3, 2, this is 4, 6. And if this is 3, 1, this is 2, 6. Because these would have to add up to 8 without using 1 and without using 3. So we couldn't use 1, 7, obviously. Couldn't use 3, 5, so it would be 2, 6. There's always a 6 down here, either with 2 or with 4. So now... see, I can't remember the combinations that we were looking at. There is a 6 in one of these. So, okay, 6, 3, 1 with a doubled 5 was one possibility, wasn't it? 6, 3, 1 with doubled 5. Or... if there was no 6 in there, then you had to do doubled 4 with 1, 2, 5. Oh, so one of these is that. That's interesting. Yeah, I can't put 6 in. Okay. Yeah, I can't put 6 in both of these because I've got a 6 in here. So the one that doesn't have 6 in it but does have 5 is 3 blues and an orange. And we have to ask what the doubler is then. And the doubler is going to have to be a 4 to make 8 with the 1, 2, 5 triple, which I think we had up there originally. So one of these is doubled 5, no, doubled 4 with 1, 2, 5. And the other one is therefore so the other one doesn't have 1 in it, does it then? No, we don't know. Hang on. hang on. Sorry, I think we can work out what the combinations are. I just need to think harder. If you don't mind, I'm just going to put, as an aid memoir, I'm just going to put 1, 2, 4, 5 in there. It might not be there, it might be here. But if this is 1, 2, 4, 5... then this would have 6 in it, definitely. It would also have 3 in it, definitely. But we don't know, do we? That's so weird. You don't know. Because it could be doubled 5. It could be doubled 5 with 6, 3, 1. Or it could be doubled 6 with 3, 4, 5, depending on what's going on here. Or is that... I feel like there's something I'm missing there. Is it to do with 2s or something? Do I have to have a 2 in there? If I have to have a 2 in there, there's no 2 in there. I don't think there is a 2 in either of the options I've thought about, though. 6 with 3, 4, 5. Or 1, 3, 6 with double... No, there isn't. There is a 2 in there. There's a 2 in there. There's never a 2 in here, in my world. So there is definitely a 2 in that box. There's definitely... Let's see, but I can't assume this is 1, 2, 4, 5, so I've got to be really careful as well. But I think where I'm getting to is there is a 2 in here. Just don't know where it goes. And if this was 1, 3 with 2, 6, this would contain 4, 6, 3. And the 6 would be doubled, I think. But if this was the other, if this was 2, 3 with 4, 6, then there would be no 4 in here, so this would have to be double 5. Oh, this is really complicated. This is not... I don't think this is very easy, actually, this puzzle. I'm not sure. If I know that's 4, 5, 6, actually. Let's not delete things we do know. I don't know whether this has got 6 in it. I don't know whether this has got 3 in it, because that's going to depend on which way round these go. So maybe I've got to resort back to the yin-yang again. I mean, how difficult is this puzzle given it's only got zeros in it? Answer, quite difficult. Is that is a true 4, 5, isn't it? That is 4 or 5. 4 doubled has 1, 2, 5 in it. 5 doubled has 1, 3, 6 in it. Is that true? Or is there any commonality there? 5 doubled, 1, 3, 6. 4 doubled, 1. There's always 1 in that cage, so there was a 1 in one of those 3 positions. Wow, I don't know what to do. I think I'm probably... Well, what should we do then? How do we do this? How do we even get a grip on this? What about... Do I know more about the shading? I know the way orange gets out is via this, but that could be orange. And if that was orange, we'd go here. Or that could be blue. Yeah, this is always orange, I think, because we know this has to escape, and the route it takes to escape is this way. It's going in this direction. Now, that means that if this is orange, that's blue, and the escape valve has to be up. And if this is orange, that's blue. And we always end up here. We always end up here. And we can't have a checkerboard, so these can't both be blue. So one of these is orange. They can't both be orange, yeah. So these are different. One of these is orange and one of these is blue, but we don't know which way round. Or at least I don't think I know which way round. Wow, okay. What on earth do I do here then? Sorry if this is obvious. I am not finding it so. What about... Is it something to do with the shading in these boxes? There's only one orange in each of these. So if that was orange, does that break the world? Then that would have to be blue. These would both be blue. That would have to be blue. That would have to be orange. That would have to be orange. This would have to be blue. All of those would turn blue. That would have to be orange. Yeah. You see, what that's teaching me is not that that's necessarily wrong, but it's teaching me that if we can just get any sort of traction, the whole thing might crumble really fast. So we're probably only a deduction or two away from finishing this. Probably. That could be famous last words. That's all very well, isn't it? But how do we do this? I know there's a 3 in one of those. Is that in any way interesting? I just don't think it is. Wow. Well, we were doing well, and now I'm not. Do I know? Or can I conclude? Maybe I can conclude that this has to be... What do we think that's going to be? I think more likely blue, probably. Well, I don't know, actually. That would make all of those blue. It would make that orange. That would make that blue. If this was blue, all we're doing is turning this blue, which is remarkably uninteresting. And we know these are one of each colour as well, don't we? But we don't know the disposition, so we don't know whether it's 3, 6 on that diagonal or 3, 6 on that diagonal. But I do know that 2, 3 and 6 have been used up in this box. So if this was 5 and that would be a 1, 3, 6 triple, wouldn't it? Does that break that somehow? It's interesting. If that's 5, then that's 5. Because you couldn't put 5 in any of those squares, could you? So maybe it's some sort of weird geometry that's I'm just not spotting then. If that's 4, this is 1, 2, 5. And if this is 5, this is 1, 3, 6. But I don't know whether there's a 1 in here or not. Do we... There's no rule that says you have to have... No. Now I'm getting confused about... Normally when I do puzzles involving doublers, you can only put one doubler into a row or column. But in this puzzle, there's a whole multitude of doublers possible. So that is not a clever way to think about this. Okay. So we're going to have to come up with something else. I feel it is to do, somehow or other, with the fact that I've got so many 3-cell blue sequences. This has got 2, 3, 6 in it. If this didn't have 3 or 6 in it, it would be the 1, 2, 4, 5 variation, wouldn't it? With the 4 being the doubler. Oh, if that's 5, that would be 5. Do we know what colour it would be? That's okay, let me think about that. If that's 5, this is 1, 3, 6, isn't it? That's definitely true. This is definitely 5 now. And because there's 6 in there and 6 in there, this has not got 6 in it. So this is 1, 2, 4, 5. And the 4 is doubled. So that would be blue in this case. One of these would be the doubled 4. And I don't think we care which one, do we? If that was orange, there would be very little orange in the perimeter. 5 would be in one of these 2 squares. No, I don't know. This is bifurcation. Sorry, I'm just trying to get a grip on anything really. Failing miserably. If I know there's a 1 in there, don't I? That is something I do know. I know there's no 5 in here. Is there some way I know the disposition of these colours? So let's say that this was 6, then that's negative, which is blue. This would be 3 positive, 3 doubled. And one of these squares would be a 2, but we wouldn't know what colour that 2 was because it's being partnered up with a 1 or a 4. So even in that situation, you wouldn't know whether we were sort of going grey that way or grey that way. Or maybe, is there some way I'm meant to know what these are? I'm not sure. We're on a bit of a hiatus here, aren't we? It's difficult to know exactly where to... Oh, maybe I have to combine that clue. Hang on. Okay, Matt, I'm going to go back to this again. If that's 5, I did think that was 5, didn't I? And I worked out that those squares had to be 1, 3, and 6. That is something I was confident about. But the reason I'm just thinking about this a bit more, I think I worked out these squares had to be 1, 2, 4, with the 4 being a doubler. So the 4 is not there. Yeah, it doesn't work. Ah! So what I didn't appreciate before, let me show you, is it's this diagonal of all things. It's that one that breaks. So if you make this 5, the point is that's 10 for doubling. These have to be worth 10. They have to be a 4, 6 pair actually. And that needs this to be 4, but it can't be 4 because it's definitely negative. And in this box at that time, it needs to be the doubler. That's vicious. I mean, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. But it's vicious. And but this is great because now that's a 4. And that should, well, I don't know what it's going to do, but it's something. That's our first digit. Right, these squares are now 1, 2, and 5, definitely. 8 and double 4 is 8. Now, please don't stop. Please don't stop there. Oh dear. There is a 2 in here. There is a 2 in here. So there is no 2 in there. Now, which option does that get rid of then? That gets rid of the 1, 2, 4, 5 option from this. Oh, my phone's buzzing. Why is it doing that? That's fine. So this is not 1, 2, 4, 5. It does contain a 6. The doubler in here is 5 or 6. If it's 6, then that goes with 3, 4, 5 negative. So that would be 4 by Sudoku. There would be a doubler here that would be 6. Don't know. Might be fine. Not seeing what's the problem with that. Or the other option is the 5 is doubled. And that would go with 1, 3, 6 negative. In fact, look, there is a 3 in here now. That's true. Ah, and there is a hang on, there is a 3 in here. We worked that out earlier. I've got my 3 pencil mark. So there is no 3 in here. And that means this one has got to be, well, it's not, oh, what on earth was that noise? Oh, please don't tell me there's a problem with the recording. I hope there isn't. But there's no 3 in here. So this cannot be 5 doubled 1, 3 adding up to 1, 3, 6. And it can't be 6 doubled adding up to 3, 4, 5. So this is one of these 1, 2, 4, 5 thingies, isn't it? So now there's no 2 in this one. Or did we already knew that? Bobbins. And we know that the 4 in here is doubled, so that's not 4. That's really peculiar. Has that not done anything more than that? The 2 or the 4 can... We know there's a 2 in here. We don't know whether there's a 4. How can this not reveal everything? Oh my goodness, did you hear that? That is not the sound a computer should make. I think the recording's still going. Sorry, I'm a bit disturbed by that. I think all I can do is carry on and hope. Right, so there's a 4 doubled in one of these squares. If it was there, these would both be blue. That would have to be orange by yin yang. This is 5 or 6. So there is definitely a 6 in here now, isn't there? That's interesting. Actually, I hadn't really cottoned onto that, but that's true. There is a 6 in here. Another way of seeing that is you can only put one 6 in there in columns 5 and 6. So as there's a 6 in there, and there's a 6 in here, there is no 6 in here. So this one is also our old friend 1, 2, 4, and 5. And the 4 is doubled. So these are not 4. One of these is a doubler, and it's an orange 4. See, it's doing it again. It's making its funny noise. I don't know. If anyone can hear that on the webcam and knows what that noise means, then please do let me know. Probably means I've got to get a new cooling system or something, which is a terrifying prospect. So there's a 4 in one of these. So 4 is almost, well, yeah, okay. Because there's a 4 in one of those, that is not 4. That's certainly true. It's one of the most complicated bits of pencil marking I've done in a while. If I knew that was orange, that would be huge, because then I think I could do yin-yanging aplenty. I really could, actually. I really could. If I knew that was 4. You're all shouting at me now, because you all know why it's 4, don't you? But I don't. That's 5. This is... It's done it again. This is really bad. Definitely the computer making the noise as well. Maybe I should pause, because then I'll keep this recording, at least to this point. I don't want to do that, because I am stuck at the moment. I hate pausing when I'm stuck. Okay, come on, Simon. You've got to solve this now. That's what you've got to do. But how? That's the next question. Do we know more? Yeah, okay, let's have a look at this diagonal. Because I do know for sure this is now worth 8. That means these squares add up to 8. Now, what's possible here and what's not possible? This can't be double 4 because this can't be a 4. So it's either, well, this square, hang on, let's actually just label up. Let's do Sudoku. Those digits there are 3 and 6. Well, this is a 6. I know there's a 6 in here. That's a 6. So, and I know there's a 3 in here. So this is a 3. Look, we're doing things now. I know one of these is a 2. I probably meant to know which one it is. No, it's ambiguous still. The 2 could go there, and then this would be a 1, and that would be 8. And the 2 could go here, and that would be a 4, and that would work. Oh, bother. Right, but if that's 3, 6, there's no 3 in there, is there? But we already knew there was a 3 in here, so that's... Alright, but let's... What's this digit then? So, these 2 add up to 8, so this is 5 or 2. There's a 1, 2, 5 triple here then, so 1 in this column is in these squares and not there. And these squares have got to be 3, 4 and 6. And, oh, that's not 3, that's not 6 by Sudoku. That one... I don't think we know about, do we? But does that give us any right to understand what's going on in this box? It might do. Come on, Simon, what does this mean? I don't know. Okay, so if this is 6, these squares have to include a 5, so that would be 5. If this is 6... In fact, yeah, look, these don't include 5, do they? But I know there's a 5 in here. So that 5 is in one of these two squares, and that is a 2. So that's 1, 5. This is a 2. Do I know? I do know there's a 2 in here, so that's a 2. Now, okay, so Sudoku is more friendly than we'd understood. 2 comes out of these squares. Oh, do I get stuck there? Or can we do better? These can't include 6, obviously. And this has got 3, 6 and 5 in it. Oh, we still don't know. That could be 4, couldn't it? That was doing the noise again. That's really weird. I don't understand why it's making such a horrible noise. Okay, come on. Okay, so if this was 6, this is 5. So let's label that up. This would be 4, this would be 3. But if this is 5, then we need 1, this is 1 then. Because we need 1, 3, 6. Let's done it again. This is not going well. I've got a 1, 2, 5 triple here. So this can't be 2 and has to be 4, but we know there's 2 in this box, so that's 2. This is not 4 anymore, that's a 1, 5 pair. So this square's a 4. Now we must know that's got to be the orange one. So these are both blue. Don't make checkerboards, so that's got to be orange. That makes that blue by dint of don't making checkerboards. That's got to be orange, don't make checkerboards. Now, 2 can't be in here by Sudoku. That definitely can't be 6, can it? I'm surrounded by strange noises. Poltergeists are going mad. These squares are a 1, 5 pair by Sudoku. So there's no 1 in this thingy up here now. Now what did we work out about this? We worked out that on one diagonal or the other we have a 3, 6 pair. Surely I know which way round these go now in terms of the overall colouring of the world. Ah, that being a 2 makes that a 6. Okay, well, let's stick with that sort of logic. So this becomes 2, 6. So this becomes 3, 4. Now how does that work? So if this is 6, that's 3. If this is 2, that's 4. Oh no. Okay. So we're still in a state of limbo. That's 4 by Sudoku, that's useful. So that's 6, that's 5, and the composition of this then is with a 3 in the corner. That's 3 in the corner, that's 3 in the spotlight, losing its religion. So this becomes 2, 5. This takes 5 out. And now, well, the 4 is the doubler here, so that's 4, that's 1, that's 3. Now, 3 must, in order to make this work, that has to be a 6. Now that 6 is a natural negative number, and this is a doubler. Oh, so that's almost not what I was expecting actually. This is orange. So this we can't introduce another span of orange, so both of those are now blue. This is a 4. Oh, well, this is going to give us the colouring of these. Because this has to be 4, and this has to be 2. And now the 2 must be negative, and the 4 must be negative, and the 2 is the doubler. So this is blue by dint of 2 by 2 logic. Don't make a checkerboard. That's blue. That's orange. That's the colouring. We've done it. I think we've done it. We've just got to finish it. So now This is a 3-6 pair. Let's delete all this. This is, yeah, here we go. 2, 5. 1, 6 here. 3, 5 here. Oh, come on, it must be done. You must be done, mustn't you? Okay, alright, no, it must be, alright, it's going to be this other diagonal. That's what we need to do. So what have we've got matching at the moment. We've got -6 and doubled 3. So at the moment we are on 0. So we have to make those 3 add up to 0 with 2 negatives. And a double. Well, if the doubler can't be a double 6 because these can't add up to enough. So that's got to be 3. That's got to be 6, 1, 1, 5, 5, 3. And these had to, so this is a 1 now to offset the doubled 3 with a 5 and a 1. And that does the last Tedley pattern, and that's how to solve it. I mean, I'm not claiming that that was, that is a, well, I mean, it wasn't the most efficient thing ever in terms of my solve of it, but that is a brilliant puzzle, and it's correct, and it's hardly had any solves at all. Good grief. Well, I'm not that surprised. I don't think it's that easy. I think there might have been a better way of doing the shading. Once I discovered that that it was restricted with the 3 cells of one colour and the 1 cell of a different colour, I wonder whether I could have almost filled this in straight away. I couldn't see how to do it. But it's brilliant. And well, I don't know if I needed this, but proving that wasn't a 5 was brutal. Although, again, if I'd looked in the right place at the right moment, perhaps it wasn't. Arctan, take a bow. That is a superb puzzle. Loved it. Loved it. It's just clued with zeros. What? And now, my computer's still working. I'm going to turn it off. Please leave a comment. We enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.